So we're now going to open it up for some questions which have come in overnight, over the last day or so, from young people across the island. So, Rob, I think you're fielding these, or is that right?
That's right. So
you're asking them anyway. We'll field them.
Yeah, so just yesterday we put out the appeal on social media for children's questions, and in less than 24 hours we've had something like 100 come through already. So that's an awful lot, and we will, as the Chief Executive said, try to provide answers to all of them directly and online. But we'll ask as many as we can here now. The first one is from Beth, who is 15, and she asks, please can you tell me what education will do to help assist us pupils in Year 10 get the teaching time we are missing to help with our GCSE studies?
I think Beth answers a really good question, actually, and it's one that's shared by many other students that have contacted us, all in regard to exams and preparation. I think before answering what we can do in the local context in terms of preparation, I think it's really interesting and worth noting that Ofqual is the body, the regulator over all exam boards. And it set out some very key principles that make sure that no individual pupils are disadvantaged by this current situation that students find themselves in. Equally, if you think about it, that bothers all schools across the island, but also towns, villages, cities across the United Kingdom, and indeed farther afield. So the other key principle that Ofqual are trying to establish with a very, very clear set of guidelines is to ensure there is a level playing field across all areas of the delivery of education so that pupils are not disadvantaged. And I think that is all based, although it's quite a thorough system, it's looking at historical marking, self-assessments. Is there suddenly a huge shift by one school, one area to advantage or disadvantage? So that's being monitored very closely to ensure there is equivalence and there is no disadvantage. I think, and lastly, in terms of what can Year 10 and 11 going into Year 11 students do, clearly we're in a very unique situation in terms of schooling. We've got another block for a month. It's really, really important, and I said last week that I think even our teaching community are learning with this at the same time, so we have to have a degree of patience. But there is distance learning being set online for pupils and students. We would really encourage that, this is a little bit about home self-discipline, and you're going to have to work for yourselves. Please complete the material that's given by your teachers, and that will help you keep a pace. It isn't the same experience. I think we all understand that. But we don't want you to be in disadvantage, so please complete the work that's been set by your teachers.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Zach, who is age 10, and he asks, what happens if a child gets coronavirus or if someone in their household gets it?
That's one for you, Dr. Brink.
Yeah. So, thank you, Zach. And clearly, Zach is going to be a doctor one day, so we're very pleased to welcome to our profession. So, Zach, most children get a mild infection. So by a mild infection is they might just feel a bit headachy, they might just feel they've got a bit flu-like symptoms, so a bit of an achy body, and so on. Some children will cough a bit as well. So what we can say is that we know that 9 children have been affected in the bailiwick. Those are people aged 17 years and younger, and they've all done very well and recovered really well. So we're very pleased about that. What happens, Zach, when you are diagnosed? Well, what will happen is that you have to go into isolation. And that's something that you have to do. It's not you can do it if you want to. So you go into isolation. Usually with a child, you go into isolation with your family. It might be just one member of your family. So you might separate the house out and you might go in with your mum or dad. And the reason why we ask you to go into isolation is we don't want to spread the infection any further. So we're looking at everyone in the whole bailiwick. So the person that has the virus, the child that has the virus, will then go with a parent, and that will usually be about 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, you'll have another test, and that'll be another throat swab. So it's not a blood test, it's another swab of either your throat or your nose, and we'll check to see if the virus is gone. And we're really happy to say in the 9 children that we've had, all of them are feeling absolutely fine, a lot better, and 5 of them we've actually shown that they've cleared the virus as well. So really good from that perspective. So thank you for that question, Zach.
Great, thank you very much. Rob?
Okay, the next question we've had from quite a few children, including Felix, who's 7, Harry, who's 3, Billy, who is also 3, all asking, when will I be able to visit my grandparents again?
Okay, so that's a really difficult question. It's really tough for children not seeing their grandparents. So many grandparents are so important in children's lives. That's really important from that perspective. And children will be missing their grandparents, and grandparents will be missing their children. And we really do understand that. But I think it's important when you think about it is that most of the serious infections, or most of the more, the people who are more likely to get the infection are older people. So we want to protect our whole community. So what I'd say to you is please just bear with us. We're looking to try and keep everyone as safe as we can within our islands. So think about other ways you can speak to your grandparents. And I asked some children when I was thinking about that question, and one grandparent said to me, I really like receiving a picture. So draw a picture, write a story, speak to your grandparents over the phone. Some grandparents might not want to use technology too much, but I'm sure they'd love to receive a picture, a bit of writing. So try and think of other ways you can stay in communication or stay in contact with them. And I think that's really important from that perspective. But I understand that's really, really tough. And I think it's tough for the grandchildren, but it's also really tough for the grandparents as well.
Can I just say to Felix, Harry and Billy that we won't keep it any longer than we absolutely have to. So we're doing it for a good reason now. And you know that why we're doing it is for a really good reason. And we won't keep it any longer than we absolutely have to.
Okay, thank you very much.
And another question that's coming from lots of children, or a similar question that's come from them. So Belle, who is 7, asks, I'd like to know how much longer it will be before I can see my friends again. She'd love to have her 8th birthday party at the end of June. Eleanor, who's 12, similarly asks, when will she be able to meet her friends in small groups? Eleanor would also like to know from the panel, what is 14 times 12?
I believe that's Dr. Avey.
168, perhaps? I might be
that
wrong.
Sounds right, 168. Yeah, we'll go with 168 as the right answer. Who wants to deal with the other part of the question? Is that Peter or...
It's a tough one, isn't it? And I'm hearing much the same thing in my own home, actually. When can I go and see my friends? And I think we just have to be honest and say it's going to be as short a time as we can make it, but please bear with us for a bit longer because it's not yet. At the moment, what we're doing is working. This is coming under control, but until we get the all clear, we just have to keep doing exactly what we're doing. So thank you for doing it, and ask again in a week.
There are apps. I hate to say the parents might be saying we don't want our children with their faces in front of screens all the time, but there are apps that enable people to come together virtually. And I have to say, last night a group of us came together virtually to say happy birthday to Deputy Tyndall, and she had balloons she'd put up in her house, and we all had a good time for about half an hour. But it is possible. It just means trying to think differently, but we have to continue until we have to continue. But hopefully it won't be for very, very, very long.
Well, just on that note as well, speaking of birthdays, we had a similar question about meeting up with friends from Tomo. So I just want to say that it's Tomo's birthday today. And actually, he'd just like a happy birthday from the panel, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next question will go from Samuel, age 6, who says, where did coronavirus come from?
Right, okay, so Samuel clearly wants to be a public health specialist when he grows up. So
You're recruiting again.
Oh, absolutely, shamelessly. The answer to that, Samuel, is we don't exactly know. We know it came from animals. We think it probably came from a bat, but it went from a bat to another animal, and we're just not sure what that other animal is. There are lots of animals that have been suggested. The one is a pangolin, which is a scaly mammal. So there are other mammals or other animals that have been suggested as well. We know it originated in China, so all I can say, Samuel, is via bats, originally from a bat, via another animal. We're just not absolutely sure what that other animal is, and then into humans after that. So again, really great question, Samuel, so thank you.
Next question is from Ellie, who is 7, and she says, are Dr. Brink and her friends working on a special injection to make sure we can all be safe again?
So again, another recruit for the Public Health Department. We're getting quite a nice team going here. So what Ellie is referring to, I think, is a vaccine, and I think we're not working on it ourselves, but we're very interested on the work that's happening worldwide. And we absolutely want to have a vaccine or a special injection available for everyone in the bailiwick, and that's really important. So it's a bit like if you think about getting your measles jab, it stops you getting measles, really important. So it stops you getting what can be a really horrid disease. So those of you who've had the jab or had a vaccine, you know it's a little bit sore when it happens, but in the big picture is it'll stop you getting really serious infections. So, Ellie, we definitely are looking at this, not through me and my friends, but we're linking with all our friends around the world to try and see when a vaccine can be available here.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Rob.
The next question is from Arabella. She's also 7, and she asks, when we go back to school, will we be allowed to sit next to our friends and play as normal, or will school be different?
Any thoughts ahead of what the public health guidance might be when schools return, or is it a little early to
No, I don't think it is. So I think, Arabella, it won't be quite the same. So there will be some differences when you first go back, but we hope to eventually get you back to doing everything that you used to do at school. So the things we might change a little bit when you go back to school, we'll be really telling you to wash your hands all the time. So we'll be making sure that you wash your hands. You will probably have to sit a little further away from your friends. So your classrooms might be spaced out a bit. And in the playground, we might limit it to certain year groups, so keep certain year groups together. So there are things like that we'll do. We won't do after-school clubs and things like that. I'm really sorry about that in the beginning, but we'll look as soon as we can to start introducing those. So it'll probably be a bit different, Arabella, when you go back, but there'll be a lot of good things that you can still do.
And as you've said to Arabella, we are working to get to the point where those kind of conditions won't exist. So it will be as it was once for Arabella at school, but it may be a little while yet before we're in that position. So, but then we realise it's quite a long time to wait, but she needs to hang in there.
So the very last one that we'll ask today, we had a lot of people just writing in to say thank you through the children's questions as well. So I thought it would be nice to include one of those two from Enzo, who is 12. He wrote to say a big thank you to hospital doctors and nurses. Enzo's gran wasn't very well and she was in hospital. She's doing better and is at home now. And he says, "This is the best news I have had when Mum took the phone calls, and she has been brave as I ask why I couldn't see Gran, and this has been so difficult for everyone. My mum thanks the staff every time she phones the ward, and I want to say thank you now, and I want to shout so loud. I'm 13 next week, and this is the best present I could have possibly wished for. Thank you all." And he finishes by saying, "I'm so lucky to live in Guernsey."
Well, thank you to Enzo. That's a great one to finish with.
But
sorry, go on.
no, well, I just say, I mean, I having been the political representative of the whole committee for 4 years, I'm so proud of being able to represent those people doing jobs that I couldn't possibly do, and that's just one example of the most of the feedback we get is that all the way through the last 4 years, the overwhelming compliments about the level of service. Things go wrong sometimes, but really we are very lucky to have the people we have working in health and care in this bailiwick.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about both Enzo and Tomo having their birthdays and not having birthday parties this week. So I think they probably need to adopt the policy that the Queen has, because I think she has her real birthday is in April, isn't it?
Yeah.
Her Majesty the Queen, but actually she celebrates it later in the summer in June. So maybe Tom and Enzo should plan to celebrate their birthday later in the year. Just they need to keep the celebrations in their household bubble this week, and perhaps have a bigger celebration later in the year. But I think the final comment there from Enzo about how lucky we are to live in Guernsey is a perfect place to finish, because I think that the sense of this has been a really difficult time for everyone in the community, whether they're young or old, in the last few weeks. And I think the sense of community and coming together, and our ability to be able to get a grip, and we've still got more work to do, but that sense of how lucky we are to be here is, I think, a sentiment that we all share. So thank you, Enzo. And thank you very much. And we will see you again later in the week. Thank you very much indeed.